let's take you now to the UK, where Queen Elizabeth II's coffin is making the journey from Buckingham Palace to lie in state for 4 days. Those are live visuals coming to you from London. Right, as you can see there, the procession leaving Buckingham Palace. Those are the Queen's grandsons, and I also see his son, Prince Andrew, from the visuals that we are currently showing to you live now. Of course, the streets are lined by crowds of people coming to pay their last respects. Of course, all roads now leading to Monday, the 19th of September, where she would be finally laid to rest. Of course, her funeral will take place on Monday, the 19th of September. That's next week, and we'll obviously be giving you full blow-up coverage of that funeral. Of course, it will be a day of emotion with a service at Westminster Abbey. We are told a cortege and military procession across London before a final family ceremony at a chapel in Windsor Castle. Those are just some of the developments and details coming through in terms of preparations towards her funeral. Queen's state funeral will obviously take place on Monday at Westminster Abbey. And of course, the Abbey is the historic church where Britain's kings and queens are crowned, including the Queen's own coronation in 1953. It's also the place where she married Prince Philip in 1947. Of course, we know that she will be laid to rest and buried next to her late husband, as well as her late parents. Well, if you've just joined us, those are live visuals coming to you live from the UK. Britain's Queen Elizabeth II's coffin making the journey from Buckingham Palace to lie in state in Parliament for 4 days. Those are live visuals coming to you there. As you can see, the streets are lined up by crowds paying their last respects. And behind the coffin, of course, are members of the royal family, including the late Queen's grandsons, as well as her children. Now, a lot of questions, of course, being asked: who will be in attendance? Who will get the invite to the Queen's funeral as she is laid to rest next Monday? Well, heads of state from across the world will be flying in to join the members of the royal family, of course, to remember the life and the service of the Queen, as we've been hearing, from various officials from the monarch. Senior UK politicians as well as the former prime ministers will also be there, of course the current one too. We understand that US President Joe Biden and the prime ministers of Australia, Canada and New Zealand have confirmed their attendance. We also know, of course, that our president will also has been afforded an invite. Of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa is currently on his way to the US but we do understand that he will be making his way to the funeral. As we look at those live visuals and just talking to what you are currently seeing, I'm now joined in studio by our international editor, Sophie Mokoena, who is with me in studio. Sophie, of course, all roads are leading, to the to Monday, Monday the 18th, if I'm correct,
19th.
The 19th. Talk to us about, what is currently happening now, because of course we know that the Queen's coffin will lie in state in Parliament for the next 4 days.
Yes, I think for the first time the citizens of United Kingdom in London will be able to view the coffin and will be able to say farewell to the British Queen. And as you pointed out, we expect the heads of state and government around the world to converge in London starting from Saturday, Sunday, where they will join the family during the funeral service on Monday. We've just received a statement from the South African president or the presidency confirming that President Cyril Ramaphosa will fly from Washington to the United Kingdom to attend the funeral. We know that he is today leaving for United States of America, where he is going to meet with President Joe Biden on Friday, and therefore quite a tight program for the president, because he then has to attend the United Nations General Assembly, because before the funeral he had made commitments in terms of participating in some of the important events. And I think besides this funeral, where many people will be on Monday and some are already there, and also the focus in Washington between President Ramaphosa and President Joe Biden and the General Assembly getting underway, you have another important meeting in Uzbekistan where the president of Russia and China and the president of Turkey are going to meet. Therefore, when you look at these three big events, the others in the US, in the UK, and in Uzbekistan, you see the power play, global power play. And therefore, I think the funeral will be almost in the middle, because you expect that people will be attending the funeral and heads of state and government and politicians and high-profile people will come from the two blocks that's led by the US, the West, and also the one led by China, the Asian tiger, and Russia.
It almost then just brings to question, if this particular event, what we are currently seeing now in the UK, if this then will be used in some way by the world leaders, as you say, as a platform to hold very important discussions that have probably been building up for quite some time, particularly as you mentioned, the Russian president and who he'll be meeting in the periphery of these events.
Yes, in terms of the funeral, some of them will not be lucky enough to find time, because security is going to be very, very tight, and movement is going to be restricted, and therefore you may have a problem. But when they bump into each other at the funeral, they are able to say a word or two, because that's what they do. Sometimes they don't need a seat or a one-on-one, bilateral or tete-a-tete, but generally there will be an opportunity for some of them to say a word or two to each other, as you see that procession. And for me, the story, and I think the picture and the visuals that are going to trend is the family behind that coffin.
Absolutely.
Particularly the grandchildren,
yes, absolutely.
William and Harry, because there were many questions whether Harry will participate due to the challenges of the family. But there he is, he is also participating, and I think it is a good picture for the royal family.
Absolutely. I mean, Sophie, just remind us again. I see Prince William there, of course, being flanked by King Charles III and their sister. They, of course, are dressed in, military uniform. He is not. Talk to us about the symbolism of that.
Well, clearly, Princess Anne has been there all the time. You know that she had to fly to not Edinburgh, Balmoral.
Yeah, Scotland.
And then you have Andrew, who is not wearing the military because of the challenges, the scandal. And then you have the others wearing a military uniform because there's nothing around them. Now, I think with William and Harry, they had to strike a compromise because if you isolate them, you are continuously creating this story and the tension around the two. And I think the family right now, with Prince Harry's memoir about to be released or a book to be released, they are trying by all means to manage the fallout so that when a book comes out or the story comes out in terms of how he feels about his family, they can say, but it's strange because during the funeral, he was treated well. For example, the father insisted, he called Prince William to say, can you take a walk with Harry and Meghan as a family? So trying to manage that tension that is likely to damage the image of the monarch.
And I'm sure the attention on particularly the grandchildren, as you've mentioned, Prince William and Prince Harry, the focus again will probably come in a little bit harder following that funeral, because I mean a lot of people saying King Charles III is elderly, Prince William coming in there on the king in waiting should have actually just expedited him coming in. So a lot of scrutiny after that funeral, I think, will be placed on Prince William.
Yes, indeed. And you can see Charles has accepted. His first statement on Friday was clear that I'm in my twilight years as well. I'm quite senior. Anything can happen. But the family is united. I love my children. I love William, who is now Prince of Wales, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, taking over. They are next in line should anything happen. But I equally love Harry and Meghan. That's what he said. And I have accepted that they have taken a decision to live their own life abroad. And in almost saying, I support their decisions. Please stop trying to make a story out of this. It was done and dusted, even though perhaps behind the scenes it's a different story. But I think where they got it right today is to ensure that there's no story in terms of the divisions between William and Harry. And as I look at that crown, the much talked about controversial crown, the front there with the cardinal diamond, and the debate in South Africa about the relevance of the monarch and the fact that she is going to her grave without really coming forward to apologize and take responsibility about the scars of the colonial system.
And that is the problem that a lot of particularly African citizens have been trying to point out, the difficulty of accepting this funeral and this death as just a condolence or mourning period, because you have to highlight just some of the things she did not do. Well, Sophie, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That's where we have to just wrap up our conversation. Thank you so much to international news editor Sophie Mokoena. Of course, we are talking about Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. Of course, she'll be buried at St. George's Chapel, the church regularly used by the royal family. Of course, that is also where Prince Harry and Meghan got married.